Larian wouldn't make any new expansions and DLCs for BG3. And considering that the game is 1 year old today, today's version of the game is more or less set in stone for the future. And what's a better time to talk about this state than on the game's birthday? Happy birthday! I've played through the whole game on its launch 2 times and didn't really touch it afterwards. So you could add me to the team of people whining about the lack of endings during the evil playthrough. So to check on how it goes right now, I've chosen the Dark Urge path in combination with Honor Mod. Another comparatively new feature that ramps the difficulty up, leaves you with only 1 save, and adds some extra buffs to the bosses. Right from the bat I can already say that Honor Mod should kinda be a definitive way to play the game, although it's not without its downs. In the regular game, even with Tactician difficulty, you can save scum at any possible place, which in its place completely contradicts the notion of an adventure. The original D&D was created to put an escapist like me into the shoes of a mighty warrior, and adventures are called adventures mainly because there are things to overcome and things to go wrong, otherwise adventures would be called pleasant walks. And giving such a powerful tool like save scumming to a player with no repercussions turns the game into exactly such a walk. On the other hand, stripping away such a tool completely is hardcore and fun, because you'd contemplate each and every decision if you value your time, of course. But if you overlook something, or because of a bug, which is unfortunately not a very rare occasion in such a giant game, you might lose a few tens if not hundreds hours of your playthrough. There is a possibility to go forth in Tactician difficulty, but it works kind of funny and it's something I'll cover together with the changes of Act 2. And you lose an achievement. It's also important. I'd love to see some kind of compromise in the middle, but we already have an option for masochists like me, so I am happy. The other thing that I've noticed during my new fresh playthrough, and something that Larian could make a better job at, is the customization. I still can't understand why they opted for presets instead of sliders. Maybe it has something to do with animations and facial expressions, which we have dozens of in the game and blah blah blah, but I'm sure that such a great studio like Larian could have overcome this. I mean, in my opinion, creating your own avatar is crucial to feel invested into the game and in the characters themselves, so not being able to create yourself or beautiful Squidward in the game takes some of that immersion away. Same goes to the voiceover of the playable character, or the lack of it to be more precise. And don't get me wrong, I do understand that it would take an enormous amount of work to narrate all of the lines said by Artav or any other origin character, but evidently Larian is up for some insurmountable challenges in order to make their games great, so I'm quite sure they could pull this off. I mean, we already choose a voice for our hero, so it already kinda alienates us from it. The voice is not completely up to our imagination because we hear the lines over and over.
Still breathing, despite everything. Looking ahead. Still alive. So that's progress.
But then abruptly and with no explanation, just silence. Maybe they could make a voiceover by a few contrasting voices for women and men and just allow us to tweak the frequencies like in, say, Soul Calibur, but it's just my suggestion. This alienating effect gets even worse with origin characters. Because here is Astarion in my group, giving quirky observations and stinging us with his comments. And here I am as Astarion, an almost complete mute. I think that many people who played the origin playthrough characters and then took them into their party in a subsequent playthrough were astounded at the depths their previous mains have shown. I know that I ask for too much, but it's just astounding to me that maybe one of the most crucial parts of role-playing experience, configuration of your avatar, in one of the best RPGs ever, is made even worse than in Skyrim, where the face of the Dovahkiin is fully customizable and the protagonist is a complete mute. But holy hell am I nitpicking right now. Another lost opportunity in my opinion is the possible debuffs during the configuration of your race. I mean, I can say maybe it's because of the agenda, but all of the races in this game have no cons, only positives. And that was kinda strange because choosing your race was a pretty damn important thing in D&D. And there as it goes were races that were much better or worse at certain things. I mean, I can partially understand why they did that, but it's really Bethesda-like move to dumb down the already beautifully working systems for the sake of either being politically correct or making the game more newcomers friendly. And considering how meticulously most of the other aspects of D&D were transferred into the game, I think it's most likely because of the first reason. I ain't got nothing against it besides the fact that it makes the game a little bit less deep and kinda takes out the wow effect when you meet a hobgoblin mage, for example. Because according to the game, all races have the same aptitudes apparently. But I already tread on a thin ice here, so I just say that it would be dope if racial debuffs would have made an appearance in Honor mod. This could make the difficulty setting even more unique. Enough boring yapping. Let's play the game. I guess that dominates pal energy to subscribe and leave a like. Shit. Well, I've tried. Please subscribe. As already mentioned, I've opted for an evil playthrough. And who can be more evil than humans? Of course a monk, because we need to stabilize ourselves after all of the unnecessary violence that will follow, and it's always good to have an option of answering something deep and philosophical after massacring someone. Adds a touch of psychopathy to the character. To make a definition of fear, I've begun as a mega buff Sasuke, because I can make a mega buff myself, but then something went south and here we are. Still menacing, so we're good to go. Can't say that I've noticed something different in the prologue besides the fact that my barricade plan didn't work, because I forgot to assign the command spell to Shadowheart, so no flaming sword for me. After this soft landing, I've assembled my party, yet outside of small bug fixes and this...
Mistress Eyelids, stop! Cease, you loon!
There was not much of a difference. And no different it was till the time I got to the first vendor, because this quality of life change alone worth all of the patches that Bethesda did for Skyrim. As far as you can see, I don't really like Bethesda. The menu became usable! I don't need to switch between characters to sell their loot, and moreover, I can pick a character with the best charisma trait and do all of that with that character. Yummy! Almost the same change could be observed with dialogues. Now, game almost always turns to the main character during conversation, which allows you to win back the spotlight and which might be crucial during Honor mod playthroughs, where you always know the stats of the character who would lead a dialogue. Still no fast travel to the inside of the grove though. This stretch of land took much more of my life than it deserves. Some pleasant changes have happened inside of the camp as well. There are a few more animations to the followers than I remember, and during the time something compelled me to go behind the old dwarven tradition and make it through the night only with the help of booze. And Larian added an animation even for the hangover. Bad shit crazy. Another change might be perceived by many as a con, but the followers are not crazy horny anymore.
I let Lae'zel into my party for 2 hours and she already wants to get into my pants. Girl, we just met. Well,
they wouldn't attack your meat after a few long rests. Now you need to win their affection to feel the warmth of their body, just as it was intended. And this bug fix is something that really elevated romance mechanics. But still I'd like it to be a little more deeper. The first iteration of romance in this game was more comical, because
I'm literally openly dating Shadowheart and all the other guys are still trying to f*** me.
And looked more like a Japanese harem games than anything else. Everybody loved Taff from the get-go, and it was very crazy and unrealistic, at least according to my experience. The other thing they could work on is preferences of our followers. In real life, people tend to have them, but in this game everyone is player sexual, which takes out some of that immersion, at least for me. But I didn't think they would do something with this aspect in the newer patches. Just wanted to share my very important opinion. One more thing that was very fucking inconvenient during my first playthrough is the hiring and dismissing mechanic. I had Minthara replace Shadowheart, but I didn't want to lose the permanent health buff from this spell. After each long rest, I would dismiss someone from the camp personally, then come back to Shadowheart, recruit her, buff our group, go back, dismiss another character personally, then recruit another one, buff him, then dismiss Shadowheart personally, and then add Minthara personally as well. Now I can tell a character to take the place of another one from the get-go, and it's so much easier. Back to it. Playing with Honor mod requires you to min-max, so I had to practically go through all of what the first act had to offer, including Underdark, Shrooms and Dwaggers, Adamantine Forge and Githyankis. And what can I say? There are some changes, but most of them are really minor. I had almost no bugs, besides this hilariously trapped in the web Astarion, the small spider who couldn't be targeted because it was under a corpse of its brother, and the fact that Ethel didn't teleport away after I attacked her. Didn't want to lose my eye, but wanted for the script to work. The main encounters became a tiny bit more difficult. Actually, much more difficult. When I saw Grimm making it through the whole arena, I almost screamed. But with the knowledge of what to do and in which priority, all of the first act was devoured no problem. The act became even more polished, and I'm all for that. The philosophy of mid-maxing followed me in the second act as well, so I vacuum cleaned all of this dark depressing place too. All in all, everything that I said about the first act stays true, but with a small and giant difference at the same time. Minthara. Minthara was sort of a black ship during my first playthrough. I loved drows, read about the adventures of Drizzt Warden, so a drow companion was like a blessing. Yet the old Minthara was kinda absent. It felt like a filler companion in comparison to say Lae'zel or Astarion. I could forgive something like this from Jaheira or Minsk, because they were already established and are here mostly because of the fan service. But I couldn't forgive such a drop of quality concerning our fan of backstabbing. Yet now our meanie elf has flourished. We have much more dialogue options and comments coming from her, and this was the biggest difference of the second act. Boss fights in Honor mod are fucking crazy, by the way, and that's where I'd like to touch upon one more inconvenience with this difficulty. I fucked it up. The avatar of Mirko appeared to be insurmountable for me, mostly because skeletons are spawning like crazy and have cold Aegas on top of them. So after understanding that the situation is sad and that I wouldn't get an achievement after investing 30 hours of my life, like any normal person, I've rage quitted. Coming back like a true samurai, I've accepted my fate, died and played on in a covered tactician difficulty. But my oh my, the game saved during the time I fucked up and has no saves prior to it. Moreover, I can't tweak the difficulty meter, so now I'm stuck with no chance to move forward. And that's a one giant problem with Honor mod. If you want to unfuck the situation you've landed yourself in, you can't. Hopefully they will come up with something, and by that I mean allow us to tweak the Honor mod campaign rules after you failed your run, but we'll see. Ah yeah, and you can't put weapon in Scratch's mouth anymore. That's also a giant, sad, but balanced welcoming change in my opinion. The third act was a bit of a slack, but only because of me and not the game. I wanted to upload this video on exactly BG3's birthday, but BG3 being BG3 and me being a very slow-paced and sad player who just lost his main character from before, I had to boot up my old save. It was upgraded anyway. Yet still I couldn't vacuum clean the wholeness of Act 3 in a week, so I just went the main quest pipe. Gladly my old character was strong as hell. What can I say about the third act? It still is marvelous, has much less bugs, the game's stability in the city has improved tremendously, but I can't really talk about changes of the act in depth, maybe some other time. Still no new endings for the evil character though, yet there are a bit more options for dialogue as a Dark Age than I can remember. And in the end, how's BG3 faring after a year? This game was great, and now it became even greater. But after replaying this game, I got to understand one thing. Baldur's Gate is giant. And to make a fair comparison, I'd have to make dozens of different playthroughs to really see the difference. And I'm not sure if the old versions are salvageable anymore. But what I can say for sure, Baldur's Gate lost most of the annoying bugs from the past, and Larian, being Larian, hears its audience, so we'll see even more bug fixes in the future. The next patch promises even more improvements, bringing at last new endings for the evil playthrough, more possibilities to tweak your campaign difficulties, so hopefully we'll be able to find a middle ground between Tactician and Honor mod, and I'll be able to go forth with my fresh playthrough that was fucked. And there will be some better kissing animations, if it butters your biscuit. And the biggest addition, official modding support. I don't know if players will be able to make a new game out of this one, like people did with most of the Bethesda games, but they will sure as hell try. And modder support was a right move by Larian, considering that modding community is the only thing that holds a few very successful developers afloat. This video in reality is an excuse to talk about the game that I love and add my own 2 cents on what in my opinion could be made even better. Yet still, this game is 10 out of 10. At least by me. Thank you guys for staying till now. If you enjoyed, I'd dark urge you to leave a sub and comment why am I wrong or right, and I will see you next time. Stay tuned, because there is much more to come. I love you. Have a good one.